This is Maurice Jones-Drew, and you're listening to the What's Bruin Show.
You're listening to the What's Bruin Show, part of the What's Bruin Show network, with your hosts, Jake Berryfield and Mike Regalado, and occasionally some friends, talking all things UCLA sports. And now, it's time for the What's Bruin Show.
Well, hello, welcome to What's Bruin Show. I am your host, Jake Merrifield, and I'm joined by my good buddy from Bruin Report Online, none other than Iron Mike Regalado.
What's up, Jake?
Iron Mike.
That's me.
Big applause, Big Mike.
There he is. And we're here for almost game week. There's going to be some games this week, but it's not going to be a UCLA game. Hawaii versus UCLA is not this coming Saturday, but the Saturday after that, and then it's on, like Donkey Kong, as the kids say. And it's going to be crazy. And it's going to be just a relentless march towards, getting 12 games in the books, and then we'll see what happens after that. And UCLA's in the Big Ten and all this stuff. And with all that in mind, we have a very special guest to share with you tonight. That'll be a little bit later. It is none other than Patrick Murphy from Bucknuts, the 24/7 site on the 24/7 Sports Network. I think I got that right, Mike. CBS
Yes.
Sports and all that good stuff. But great interview. We got about a half hour with Patrick, and he was a very wonderful guest. So we aren't playing Ohio State this year. So, our booker, Mike, in this case, booked a Big Ten team that, we don't play. But it is the team that we donated our coach to.
I guess
one
that's
of the
pretty
reasons
relevant.
Why. So good on
Especially
you, Mike.
since they are the one of the three top teams in the Big Ten. The former Big Ten, the prior to 2024 Big Ten.
They're the favorite to win the Big Ten, probably.
Yes, they are the
at
favorite.
Worst, the going to be second at worst.
Exactly.
But
So,
generally favored to win it. We did. At no point did I play this drop for Patrick.
Chip Kelly can kind of be a dick.
So, and I didn't play him this one either.
I think Chip Kelly is probably the worst coach in the Pac-12 right now.
None of those things. So, we just
Chip Kelly
kind of kept him more generic. But I think it's going to be a fun conversation that you're going to enjoy, I would hope. But before we get to that, it's the What's Bruin Show on the What's Bruin Show Network. This is email, whatsbruinshow@gmail.com, on the Substack, whatsbruin.substack.com, or patreon.com/whatsbruinshow, or whatsbruinshow.com. If you want to support our little pirate ship for just a little bit more than a couple bucks a month.
$2.
Depending on the Patreon or the Substack, you can do that. Thank you for your support in advance. On Twitter or X, it's at What's Bruin Show, Threads too. And on the Instagram, I've been putting up a few little kind of 2 to 3 minute excerpts from the show onto the Instagram with a fun little slideshow going on.
Brilliant,
there.
Jake.
It's been
Love
fun.
It. Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get some new listeners out of that. But if you see those on the Instagram, feel free to send those out for me. I would really appreciate that. Also, you could search a show on YouTube. Just search What's Bruin Show, and you'll come up with that slideshow. I'm going to revamp the slideshow. I'm hoping I can get it done before game 1 of the football season, but we'll see. Got a busy couple weeks coming up. And you can also get merch on the website that's in the show notes, my locker site. And you can call the hotline. We have a lot of calls this week. Hotline is 805-399
For WBS. Suck it, Raina Troy.
I am supposed to go over and record a little mini episode with Raina Troy tomorrow, which will go on the subscriber feed. But be forewarned, I'm feeling a little peaked right now. I'm hoping.
We got football, Jake.
I know.
We got football.
My son, who's going to play his first JV football game in his life on Thursday, was sick over the weekend, and I thought I had survived it. I'm hoping I don't catch something. Yeah, I've been pretty good at fighting these off generally,
Dude,
so I'm hoping.
Get some airborne. Just chomp that.
Oh, I've
Chomp
already
that
had
sucker.
2 emergencies today,
Good.
and a
Good.
full set of vitamins.
Nice.
So I'm struggling with it, but I'm hoping that
Also,
it works out.
real quick plug. My daughter,
yeah.
first cheer game at the first
Let's go.
Maranatha High School football game this Thursday as well. So I will be a proud dad out there at a football game.
All right, let's go, Mikey. That's good. Yeah. So things are happening.
We got football.
Yeah, things are happening. But with all that in mind, thank you for listening, and let's get right to Mike's Go Joe Bruin. No, blast from the past.
Wow.
BRO-filiated headlines. It was because I've gone through all the
That was
drops,
your Freudian slip.
and I found the old Go Joe Bruin one. Anyways, BRO-filiated headlines with Mike.
Mike Regalado.
Go for it, Mikey.
That's me. Just 2 quick ones right here. I published today ESPN's football power index game-by-game projections, which are pretty
I saw
interesting. And trust me, I'm getting a lot of messages in the bro boards saying the math doesn't add up, which it doesn't. For example, in Game 1, UCLA against Hawaii, UCLA is 40th in the FPI, Hawaii is 112th, yet UCLA only has a 76% chance of winning. Comparatively, UCLA is 40th again, Rutgers is 45th, yet Rutgers has a 62% chance of winning. And keep in mind, we historically hate the FPI. But
or the FPI historically doesn't like the Bruins very much.
Yeah, exactly. And it's weird because the overall metrics of the FPI have UCLA finishing with an average win-loss of 5.5 wins and 6.5 losses.
Which, by the way, is ahead of a lot of outlets. We'll more on this in a minute.
That's I was like,
so FPI actually doesn't hate the Bruins that much.
Well, okay. But then when you look at the wins, losses, and the probabilities, first off, there are only 10. I don't know why they don't have the projection for UCLA and Iowa and UCLA and Washington.
Yeah, I thought that was weird too.
But aside from that, UCLA is at that point 4-6 with 2 missing projections, which I think it's a little low. I mean, maybe if you add in a split, 5-7, which is more along the line of what the actual the FIP.
The other part of it too is like the FPI ranking of UCLA is
FIP. Sorry,
it's just the ranking to it relative to the other 134 teams, whereas the projection part of it is actually stacking up against each team, taking into account the home and away and all that stuff. So I mean, there's a little bit of room for it to change, so it's not going to be right on the button. But I mean, I don't know. This is probably the first year I can remember in the last 5 or 6 where we come into the season thinking that FPI has a more reasonable view of the Bruins as opposed to kind of being, just kind of something that we completely are like, what the hell is going on there? But as we kind of talked about last week, UCLA is so anonymous going into the Big Ten that for a lot of prognosticators, they're the afterthought of the 4 teams going in. They're an afterthought in the conference. Everybody's picking them to be somewhere in the bottom tier. And so I think for a lot of like humans that are doing their schedule run, UCLA is the team this year for a lot of them where they're just like, okay, they go through the schedule game by game and they're like, oh, UCLA's going to lose that one. I mean, it's like when we used to do the Pac-12 schedules, we're like, we're going to do next week when we do our prediction episode with Bill and Jamaal and the Godfather.
Our 11th anniversary party celebration, whatever.
Great, Mike.
11 years, bro.
Yeah, it's good. We're all happy. Here, let's.
I wait for this episode every year.
Oh, Mike.
And it's going to be a bit of a reunion. I'm very excited, Jake. He
does a helmet. He brings a helmet schedule with
Hells
him.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Oh, anyways, my God. Sidebar. Do you see that helmet schedule? It's massive.
It's huge.
Freaking
That's a lot of games to pick. We're not going to be able to like go through everybody's schedule, by the way.
No.
We're just going to be like, who wins the conference and where do you have the Bruins? And that's pretty much it. And who's going to be in the playoff?
Who are your top 6 and where does UCLA finish?
Well, I think we're going to go. Who's your Big Ten schools that are in the conference race? Who are the worst? If it's not the Bruins, and where do the Bruins land? We'll see. I'm sure Bill's going to come in here and say they're going to be 1-11, just like CBS Sports. Anywho, the point I'm trying to make is that for UCLA, nobody really knows a whole lot about them. If you look at just their generic storylines, it's horrible. Your coach leaves to be an offensive coordinator. Your defensive coordinator gets hired away by your rival. You have to pay money to your other rival, and you're going into a conference basically because you're dead broke and you don't have your 5-star guy from last year transferred out, and you lost a bunch of prospects to the NFL. Like just the general storylines would 10 people, if they're just glossing over the Bruins, to be like, oh yeah, that doesn't look good. They're going to suck. We have a little more nuance in that we're seeing what's developing, and we might have a little bit more rosy picture of it. But you can totally see why, if someone's picking the Big Ten schedule, they're chalking up the Bruins as loss. I guess that's why they play the games.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I forgot what friggin' point I was trying to make, Mike, but your headline was about FPI, so...
Yeah, it was just about the breakdown of what ESPN thinks of UCLA and just a lot of weird numbers. But considering that some people, RJ Young, had UCLA at like 70th, There was even one CBS pundit who has UCLA finishing last in the Big Ten. 40th is actually not bad compared to how the FPI has treated UCLA.
No.
So,
Well, Mike, we were going to do this. Like, what was your other headline? Is it a basketball headline?
It
About
is.
that guy
It
that
is.
transferred
It
or whatever.
is. It's big deal.
Who the hell cares? Who the hell cares? Honestly, I'm like, big.
I would like to avoid the basketball shows for as long as possible.
UCLA straps up the helmets against Hawaii in like 9 days or something, Mike.
yeah,
you're
and
trying to come
UCLA
out with a
basketball just got
transfer?
a solid
Who the hell
basketball
cares?
transfer. We do.
No one cares.
We do. We, Jake, we are the mighty Bruins.
You tell me.
The best team in the West.
Call the hotline and you tell me whether it's or it's
marching
'cause
on
for
to
me,
victory.
It's like that. Anyways, what's the guy they got?
Dominic Harris. Oh, wait, we're transitioning. I thought you were just going to.
Well, because I want to go back to that because I have a whole thing of all the rankings.
All right. Quick
So we're going to put a
sidebar.
pin in the rankings, and we're going to go to Mike's stupid story about basketball that nobody cares about because we're on
Everyone
the eve of
cares
football
about it,
season.
Jake. This is all over the news.
Go Bruins.
Yes, UCLA, the transfer of Dominic Harris from LMU, the 6'3" guard who led the Lions in scoring last year, has officially been eligible to transfer into UCLA. And here's the thing. He's going to come in as a graduate transfer and have 2 years available. This team is completely stacked, Jake. That's why it's awesome. That's why I'm excited. That's why we're doing it here on Bruin Report and What's Bruin Show.
Go Bruins!
Where's the Tylenol? Done.
Go.
Done.
UCLA fight! Go Bruins!
Okay, now let's bring it back. Football, Jake.
That's okay. No, there's one other thing I want to. What am I thinking about? I went to look for something. Anyways, getting back to our conversation about what the rankings are. Let me just start. Those are the headlines, Mike?
Those are the
Let
headlines.
me play that up. And very quickly, let's get to the football intro.
Blue 32, California, hood, hey! Football.
No. So, Mike, yeah, you're bringing up a really good point with the rankings that are now coming out because now a bunch of outlets. Last week we talked about the Fox ranking of all 134 teams or whatever.
Yeah,
whatever it is, and now since then, a few more have come out. And
we talked about the SP Plus, which did have UCLA as a favorable ranking.
A few other things, also came out with different conference predictions or whatever. And we've been kind of tweeting about this back and forth throughout the last few days. And we actually had a Twitter reply from Sita Nestor on Twitter after our conversation last week about how under the radar the Bruins are, right? And and we aren't necessarily saying that the Bruins are underrated, by the way. Like, we think that they kind of are, but we're not like outraged by the Bruins being underrated because, as I just said a minute ago, it's perfectly understandable when you look at the generic storylines for the Bruins that they would be underrated. They, nothing speaks to positivity when you look at what that profile is.
Yeah.
However, we're a little more optimistic about it. But we put out, that they were under the radar, and then Sita Nestor, or Nestor, maybe I should say it right. Anyways, is like, well, UCLA fans outlets, bro, spend 6 months telling the world that UCLA football has cratered and has never been worse after 3-8 win seasons. I get it. This is Nestor speaking. They want Chip fired and said stuff to push that way, but we can't complain. The media is underestimating us now. And like I said, I just kind of pointed out that it's not necessarily that we're saying that they're being underrated. It's just that they're completely anonymous and the storylines aren't necessarily accurate to what they have coming into the season is really where I was going at, right? But for sure, the Bruins have to kind of turn the ship around. But to go further towards that point, Mike, did you have something?
No. I was going to say something, but I didn't want to derail it.
No, that's fine. Sorry, I did a good job of that myself. Just thinking about, number one, what all the rankings are. They're all over the place, but they tend to be lower, right? We talked about the CBS one that had them in the 70s. These are all the 134 rankings that came out. USA Today has them at 91. I think that's the lowest. Right? The highest would be CBS, had one that had them at 52. Some outlet called College Football News had them at 56. Athlon had them at 59. College Football Network has them at 69, and The Athletic has them at 68. So, I mean, I think all those are relatively reasonable, except for the USA Today one, and I think the Fox one was kind of baloney, especially when you look at it in comparison to like where they are on the hierarchy, right? Like we kind of figured out last week that the Fox one was pretty much just a Riz ranking. That was kind of our point to that, right? Colorado was higher because they have quote unquote household names and a lot of the buzz, right? And that's all fine. For the Bruins going into the season, the buzz is all negative because lots of weird, wacky, negative stuff has happened, and the only national spotlight they got since the offseason or during the offseason was Deshaun Foster flubbing it up on the stage, and that became like the, what everybody's kind of leaning on. But, right, we think that they have a chance to exceed that, and being under the radar is actually kind of an advantage. I have one other wonderful example of how under the radar they are. This is from the Believe Network's Big Ten podcast, and this is 2 separate episodes. Both hosts were trying to come up with Ethan Garbers' name. So like mid-July, they're talking about the Bruins, they're talking about the quarterback for the Bruins, and this is what comes out of the mouth.
Yep. Whereas Chase Garbers, good player, I don't know that he's the same type of player to do that.
So he's Chase Garbers.
Chase Garbers.
Right? No, that's good. And then a week
never
later,
played at UCLA.
Yeah,
never played.
No. I mean, by the way, is it an easy mistake to make?
Oh yeah.
If you're just kind of throwing out things that you may or may not have some inkling about the Bruins.
Yeah.
But then next week, then their other host starts talking about the Bruins here.
I'm going to go with Ethan Gayburs at quarterback.
So we got Chase Garbers and we got Ethan Gayburs, neither of which are the quarterback for the UCLA Bruins. So I'm pretty sure this is going to be in heavy rotation for us.
Ethan Gayburs.
This is going to be our heavy rotation drop for Ethan every time he does something good.
Chase Gayburs at quarterback.
My name is Ethan. Just call me E.
The No Respect Bruins are heading into the Big Ten to hopefully give some, positive surprises for UCLA fans, but that is, like, in a nutshell, that's what we're talking about right here. And that was the Believe in Big Ten Network pod, and that was their USC and UCLA roster breakdown, right? So it's like, okay, fine. I get it, dude. There's a lot of teams in the Big Ten. It's hard to remember all these names and all that stuff, but literally, does that not state just, nobody really knows anything about the Bruins or knows to care anything about the Bruins because they really are irrelevant going into the conference.
Yeah.
Compared to the other teams right now, and whatever.
I will say this:
I don't like being relegated to the Purdue / possibly Indiana / in the same boat as Northwestern and all that stuff. But it is what it is. That's where we're at.
The ghosts are coming for you.
We'll see. Yeah, I know he's invisible.
I put a tweet out last week, and it was based on something you said in last week's episode that UCLA, my nickname for them this year are the ghosts because they're invisible, as you said.
Yeah,
nobody knows about them. And they're going to come out of nowhere.
That's what we're talking about with Ethan in particular, is that when you look at his stats, Ethan Gayburs or Chase Garbers, whatever you prefer, when you look up his stats, a lot of them don't show up because he had just under the minimum requirement for things like yards per attempt for the Pac-12 and I think, pass percentage and all that stuff. So if you're just looking up the numbers for the Pac-12 from last year, Garbers won't show up on that list unless you sort it differently. You have to go to that positive step. So I think that's another reason why, like I said, nobody's really knows what he did last year, which was he had some good numbers in the limited time that he played. He's a quarterback for almost half the season, or most of half the season. So, anyways,
but I know what you're saying. There was this other podcast, and they actually did. They did a pretty. It was the longest deep dive. I'm blanking on who it was, and it's deep in my Twitter feed right now. But they actually did a really good deep dive at it. But I'm just saying, most rosters, school rosters, have pronunciation guides, and that was one thing I would say. Like, just maybe check it out. Check to see how you pronounce a name you're not familiar with, or at least say that it's that, or at least name the quarterback and not his brother, who never played at UCLA.
And this is a left tackle with a very complicated multi-syllable name, then fine. But I mean, it's not. It shouldn't be that hard, right? That's all I'm saying.
Exactly.
By the way, there's been like 50 Garbers in college football for the last like 20 years. So it's all right. It's all right. No big deal.
Not J-Toe.
I don't want to turn into like Hector the Protector in regards to what people are saying about UCLA football, which is what we're doing a little bit. But it was funny to me. It occurred to me. And
dude, we've been doing this all summer long.
Real quick, just as far as like Big Ten podcasts out there that I've been kind of listening to, and some I liked and some I don't like. I don't know what y'all have been listening to, but I'll tell you one. There's a Northwestern podcast that the Godfather turned me on to, Westlot Pirates. Very good. I really enjoyed that one. Most of the Big Ten ones have not been great. The Believe in Big Ten one, not a big fan of that. NBC Sports Big Ten Country is the only one I like less than Believe in the Big Ten. Big Ten Football Talk. That's I can't remember what network that's from, but that guy actually he's an independent dude and he at least is a kind of a reasonable guy. It sounds like. Bigger Big Ten, wasn't a fan of that. Locked On Big Ten, I think, is just absolutely dreadful, horrible. Not that we don't love a lot of Locked On shows. My cousin does Locked On Dodgers, by the way, and we love old Zach on the Locked On Bruins show. But oh my God, Locked On Big Ten, that guy is just a giant toolbar. Although he's always welcome on the show. But just my little.
Hey, your opinions are crap. Hey, you want to chat? How you doing, bro?
Hey, whatever. Everyone's welcome.
Who cares? You're cool.
Everyone's welcome. No one's safe.
Good
That's
vibes.
how it goes.
Good vibes only.
Anywho, that's just kind of my short list for the things I've checked out. I haven't done a lot of team-specific ones. Obviously, we just had a guest from the 24/7 site, Bucknuts, and that guy's awesome.
Yeah.
Pat
a lot
Murphy,
of information. Yeah.
Patrick Murphy. And you're going to hear him in a minute. So just to kind of put a button on this, look, we only got a week and a half left of this, and then we actually see if the Bruins are going to be horrible and terrible, and they're going to have the Eric Bieniemy / Kenny DePalamalu offense from 3-4 years ago, or the Carl Durrell offense from 25 years ago, and we're all going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe we had to sit through a season of this, or they're going to get out and they look better than other people think, and we're going to enjoy a season where there are no expectations, and literally, they can go out there and there should be like kind of no pressure on the team this year other than the internal pressure they put on themselves, because nobody's expecting that much from them. So it's all about to happen, and I'm ready for it.
Oh, hell yeah.
Mikey, with that being said, we've wasted way too much time. Why don't we get to our very special guest, Mr. Patrick Murphy. All right, join us on the What Bruins Hotline. We have Mr. Patrick Murphy. Patrick Murphy is the Ohio State beat reporter for Bucknuts 247 and CBS Sports and 24/7 Sports. He is at _Pat_Murphy on the Twitter X machine, and we are happy to have him on the What's Bruin show tonight. Pat, how are you doing?
I'm good, guys. Glad to be on. Glad to have UCLA in the Big Ten, and hopefully we can do this more often now.
Yeah, we're wondering, how many people actually remember that UCLA is coming to the Big Ten. It seems like they're kind of last out of the 4 teams coming in as far as like fanfare, and they're a little anonymous coming in. But that's what we want to kind of talk to you tonight a little bit about.
Yeah, and we just wanted to expand our audience's knowledge towards you, and vice versa, because this is very bizarre. It still feels very bizarre. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. I have a buddy who graduated from UCLA, now lives in DC and lived in Columbus for a while. And he still, he texted me beginning of the summer or before Big Ten Media Days. That's what it was. It's like, I can't believe that UCLA is going to be there. And then just the other day, he texted me again and was just like, I can't believe UCLA is about to start football in the Big Ten. Mm-hmm. And I agree.
So wacky.
It's, yeah, I mean, I guess this is just the world of college football now, right? I mean, you look at the SEC, you look at, Stanford's in the ACC now, so explain that one to me.
Yeah, I have a daughter that's in the band at Cal, and she's, like I said, she's about to be in the ACC. It's totally bizarre. Totally bizarre.
Right. So I guess we just have to get used to this, like everything else in the ever-changing world of college football. But no, I think it'll be fun. I know football season's upon us, but basketball, obviously, and what UCLA brings. I know Ohio State and UCLA have played a handful of times in recent years at the CBS Sports Classic, so I think that'll be fun as well, and I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So I was listening to one of your last podcasts you had on the 24/7 feed, and you do. The title of it was called Happy Hour, and I think you cracked a beer at the beginning of it and started talking. That fits right with our sensibility. We'll end up having a cocktail during our show as well. But is that just something that you just do on your own, or is that something that your other hosts do as well?
Yeah, I'll have, depending on what we're doing, I'll have either some of our other guys from around the network. Once the season gets going, I do it once a week. And I try and get somebody from whoever Ohio State's playing, whether it be somebody in the 24/7 Sports Network or if I have to go outside of that. But it was really, I started it, I think this is year 2 or 3. We do a morning podcast every weekday that has been going on for a long time, and I help out some with that. But it was it's like anywhere between like 5 and 20 minutes, kind of a short, just catch you up in the morning type of thing. And as we were focusing in more on podcasts, I was like, when I listen to them, I like to listen to longer ones. And so I thought maybe we should do one that's, gonna be a little bit more in depth. I'll try and have different guests on and just make it a little different. And I knew I was going to do it later in the day, so that's kind of where the happy hour idea came from it. And I do a weekly segment on a local sports radio station here, and we call it Beers and Buckeyes because the host and I like to talk about beer. So it kind of fit in with that whole persona, so to speak. And I like to have a beer in the afternoon when work allows, and that's an easy excuse.
That's beautiful. So just real quick before we get into the Big Ten and the Ohio State and the UCLA of it all, what was your path to become a beat writer for the Buckeyes? How'd you get to where you are right now?
Yes, so I went to Ohio State, and I actually started college at a small liberal arts school about 45 minutes outside of Columbus. And I knew that sports writing was something I was interested in, but I wasn't entirely sure if that was like a career path or just something I wanted to try in college. And I talked to the very small editors at the very small paper, and they were like, yeah, come write. And I grew up playing soccer, and they needed somebody to write about soccer. So I started doing it then, transferred to Ohio State, took a year to just kind of settle in because it's a much bigger school, and reached out to the sports editor again. And he was like, well, if you want to do journalism, if you want to do the Lantern as the paper full time, you have to switch your major to journalism, but you're already kind of halfway through college. So if you don't want to do that, you can just kind of contribute with us and whatnot. And so that was kind of what I did, and took some classes and whatnot. And then after I got done with school, I did some kind of odd jobs. I covered the Columbus Crew, the Major League Soccer team out here. And then just kind of kept reaching out to various people that I met, and eventually got in with a small outlet here that is sort of still in existence, but very minimally. And then after a few years of doing that, Dave Biddle, who's one of my coworkers now, reached out to me middle of the season, really, and was like, hey, we've got an opening. I've gotten to know you over the last few years. I like what you do. And would you be interested in talking about it? And so that was kind of my path into sports writing, and then to 24/7.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. That's a great story. So that's good, because my next question kind of goes with not only you kind of knowing about the Ohio State fan base, but also being a Buckeye yourself. And that is, look, we're coming from the Pac-12. We're very proud of our conference. We're very proud of it when it was the Pac-10 when I was in school. But going into the Big Ten and, and you talk about the Big Ten and now the SEC rivalry and all that stuff, right? So as noobs to the Big Ten, I'm kind of wondering, like, how far does our fan loyalty towards the conference overall need to go? Because, I can see myself at the end of the year, it didn't seem like UCLA has any stakes this year. So at the end of the year, I could see myself rooting for the Buckeyes or Michigan against Alabama in the playoff or something like that. But I swear to God, if USC's in the playoff versus LSU or something, I am like, go Tigers all the way. So my first question to you is like, is that acceptable? Like, were you rooting for the Wolverines in the Rose Bowl last year?
Oh,
like,
Jake, come
where
on.
does that
Jake.
go? Kind of lay it out for me. Where are we at with all that?
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. For the way most Buckeye fans view it, like, there isn't this passion for the conference in the same way like the SEC has, I think. But as long as it's not, your major rival, and in this case, obviously that would be Michigan, I think most Big Ten fans and certainly most Ohio State fans will root for other Big Ten teams in, postseason and even non-conference. I just think it helps the perception of everybody involved, right? And
certainly.
So if it's Indiana, playing somebody in the non-conference, or if it's Wisconsin in a bowl game, I think Buckeye fans would certainly prefer to see those guys win, especially if it's against the SEC. And there was a period there of that SEC dominance, which has sort of faded a little bit. And I know every time a Big Ten team played an SEC team, and maybe even, I don't know if Ohio State fans would admit this, but I think there was probably a time when Michigan faced South Carolina in a bowl game, and that was the one where their defensive lineman, whose name I can't remember, laid the huge hit on the quarterback. And I think Ohio State fans were a little torn there because it was like, well, this is a chance for the Big Ten to get one over. It wasn't a great Michigan team, so it's not like you had anything to worry about. But it was, it was kind of a good bowl game. I forget what game they were in. So I think even at that point, because Michigan was kind of at its lowest, and it was like, all right, well, if the Big Ten could get one over on the SEC, that might be positive for everyone involved. But I do think there's a little bit of self-interest there, right? Like it's about helping Ohio State look better. But yeah, it's not as passionate as the SEC, I would say. But I do think they will more often than not root for other conference teams.
I feel like that makes sense.
It has been, quite a ride, as you just said earlier in the conversation. From our perspective, we hang out with the Arizonas, the Colorados, the Utahs, so-and-so of the Pac-12, and that's no longer. We've had to learn 14 new teams. The bigger ones, the ones that are present on New Year's Day, the Ohio States, Penn States, Michigans, that we know about.
We already know a little bit, yeah.
But now you, even though we've had to learn 14, you have to know about 4 new teams. What was it? Has there anything that has surprised you? Is there anything having to, study UCLA, USC, Washington, and Oregon?
Well, I think it may be a little bit different. It's 4, and that's obviously 10 less than 14 for those out there that don't do the math.
That's good math. Yeah.
I'm not good at math, so I had to type that in the calculator here. But I also think you look at the 4 teams coming in, and USC obviously has the history and the pedigree. And myself specifically, I think with Ryan Day and Lincoln Riley, like they sort of have, not that they have a lot of head-to-head, but they seem to be spoken about a lot in the same vein. They were both kind of these young offensive coordinators that then got head coaching jobs. And then Lincoln Riley obviously moves out to USC. So like I'm pretty aware of what's going on at USC just because of that. And then Oregon and Washington. Oregon played Ohio State in 2021. So I, had kind of dove into the Ducks again there. So I had at least some familiarity with that. And then both those teams are obviously pretty good last year, with Washington making it to the national championship. So I think that helps a little bit. Now, UCLA football, I won't say I'm an expert on, but as I mentioned, I do have a buddy who we text a lot about just college football in general. And because he graduated from UCLA and is a UCLA fan, that comes up. So I do feel like I know a little bit. And then, Chip Kelly coming to Ohio State obviously has, we had to do some research into what that meant. And I did feel like because I'd watched some UCLA games when they were on late, just because I knew my buddy was, we'd end up talking about it, I had some frame of reference there. So I don't think I have as much research to do as you guys, but, I think especially with Washington, new team, new staff, Ohio State doesn't play them this year, so I haven't dove into them as much as maybe as I would if they were on the schedule. But it's definitely, not a team I'm overly familiar with, I would say. Whereas like Oregon, I was a bit more aware of just because, when the team plays, you kind of follow what's happening with that team. I got to know some of the guys out there from the 24/7 Sports Network when they were here. And, so I've kind of kept in contact with them. So not nearly as much, but there definitely has been a little bit of research that's had to go into it for sure. The big thing I'm excited about is getting out to some of these venues. I've been to the Rose Bowl for the Rose Bowl game, but never for, a regular season game. I've been to the Coliseum, and then I've not been to either of the other 2 stadiums. So those going out and doing those type of things, like we already had to kind of figure out what you do when you travel to Eugene, when we're booking flights for mid-October this year. And it's like, do you stay in Portland? How far is that to Eugene? And so that's kind of been another thing that I didn't even think about.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of because a zoo. Definitely.
Yes. So we'll kind of figure it out on the fly and hope everything works out.
Just saying, once you get up to Seattle, that is just a gorgeous city and stadium. It's right on the lake. Just gorgeous. You're going to love it. But you did touch upon something I wanted to ask Chip Kelly. How do you feel about this offensive mastermind coming in, taking over Ryan Day's offense?
Well, we haven't seen a ton of it so far. And we've actually gotten to watch a good amount of fall camp, at least the first kind of half of fall camp. But in terms of what it will look like that's different, we've seen some more passes to the running backs and things like that. But I guess also keep in mind, Ryan Day played for Chip Kelly and then coached with Chip Kelly.
Yep.
So the two kind of speak the same language, I think, already. Now, the thing that keeps coming up, when you talk to people at Ohio State, you talk to fans, is how will Chip Kelly get this run game, which has been inconsistent, I would say, the last couple of years. How can he maybe jumpstart that? And, what could he bring with maybe some more the two-back looks or, more heavy sets? I know he did some 3 tight end stuff out there at UCLA. I think the big thing that I've had to tell people is, like, look, this isn't going to be Oregon and what he was doing then with, like, spread everybody out, elite small athletes. Like, that's not what UCLA was, because that's not the guys he had there, and college football involved. So, I think, and he's a guy, I mentioned Lincoln Riley. He's another guy that I just find interesting, at least from his football side of things. We've had good experiences with him, but it's been limited. And I know that hasn't always been the case in terms of how he handles the media. But I think from just a, schematic type of thing, watching how he's evolved and really, I think, learned going to the NFL and kind of seeing that whole thing fail has intrigued me. So, not to say that I knew a ton more about him, but I do think that I had some idea of kind of what Chip Kelly would bring. And, I'm excited to see how it meshes with Ryan Day again, and then kind of what, especially this year with the talent they have on this Ohio State team, what those two are kind of able to cook up.
So when it actually all went down, like you guys had some weird turnover, just like UCLA did in the coaching ranks. I mean, you go from Bill O'Brien for a couple weeks or whatever to Chip Kelly. When that's all transpiring, right? Because I think you guys hired Bill O'Brien thinking that you fixed something, and then all of a sudden he leaves for BC, and then you get Chip. Were you considering, or what was the kind of the temperature of your of how you guys felt? Was Chip Kelly like a consolation prize? Did you view him as kind of like a lucky upgrade, or just kind of on par with what you thought you were going to get with O'Brien? Or how did that all go down with you?
So Bill O'Brien was the offensive coordinator of Ohio State for 3 weeks, and I think he was in the building like twice,
right?
Maybe a couple more times than that. But I think Ohio State fans had just like kind of started to come around to the idea of Bill O'Brien and what he would bring, because he'd spent 2 years in a pretty mediocre Patriots offense, or a year maybe. And there had been, while Alabama was really good while he was there, the offense maybe wasn't as good as some years. So I think fans kind of had to look at it and be like, okay, what can Bill O'Brien bring to a Ryan Day offense? And I think when that fell apart and then it quickly flips to Chip Kelly, I mean, literally same day, at least in terms of when those things were announced, I think fans were excited because, like I mentioned, you think of those Oregon teams, right? And so I think that immediately was like, oh, I don't know if it's necessarily an upgrade, but in some, people who maybe don't study the game as much as others, it was like, oh, wow, Chip Kelly. Like, I know that name and I know what he's done. So I think there was an excitement to it. I think maybe even it was kind of the opposite, because then some people started to look at UCLA and kind of how that went during his time out there. And, I'm talking more just like the record than anything. And you were like, well, is this still the same guy? And things like that. But no, I do think there was initially just a buzz about it because of kind of the name recognition that he has. Probably similar, I imagine, when he first got hired at UCLA.
No doubt. Yeah. And it's funny too. Like, I just kind of from our perspective, when he leaves, obviously we have a lot of hurt feelings over that, but still, like, you had to kind of respect how he had built the program while he was here, and then all of a sudden he's gone. But our first thought is that he's going to go to Ohio State, and absolutely, he's going to be a big part of them winning a national title, taking a downgrade. But I don't have any doubt he's going to fix your run game and all that stuff. I am a little concerned for Ohio State, like when you guys have like short yardage or something, because that was one of the things that always bugged me about his time at UCLA was, he's got a 4th and 1 or a third and 1 or some high leverage moment, and he either would get too simple or way too cute, if that makes any sense. Like, he'd either run a dive into the line and it would go nowhere because everybody knew that's where he was going, or he'd put the ball in the hands of a guy who had like 3 snaps in his career and it would be a fumble or something wacky. But other than that, I think you're getting a real quality guy. FYI, just a little bit of our commentary.
Ohio State fans will not like to hear that because short yardage stuff has been an issue here. But we'll see what they can do in terms of just the guys that they have. But yes, that is an interesting perspective because that has been a area where Ohio State has not been great. Now, maybe Will Howard helps solve some of that, but we'll see. We'll see. That's good to know, though.
I think you're going to score like 9,000 points a game, but it's just like those little crunch time things, like the ones things where we're just like, oh my gosh,
I mean, I just wanted to add, from a positive perspective, he gets really creative with the O-line. It's not going to be tempo like at Oregon, but he did some really interesting stuff, and that's where a lot of the innovation comes from. I would also say that you hit it on the head that his overall record at UCLA was about 500.
Right.
That has to be divided. And this is funny, but it's a fact. UCLA in the first 3 years, I think UCLA won 3, 4, and 3 games, and then they won 8, 9, and 8. Something has to be said about how he did improve in year 4, 5, and 6. It didn't come out the way everybody expected, but Bruin fans are impatient. If that would have happened in the first 3 years, there's no doubt that he would probably still be UCLA's head coach. And UCLA fans might kill me because they're not Chip Kelly fans. He is a very innovative coach. And now that he only has to coach and not do so much of the recruiting, not take up so much of the weight, I think he's going to be very successful, and he's going to, as Jake said, help Ohio State win a championship because now he has ballers, and it's just that's what I'm sad about. It's just very innovative.
Sure.
But my final question, what are your thoughts on the Big Ten? Who are you seeing that's going to be at the top of the Big Ten?
Yeah, I mean, look, the obvious answer is Ohio State and Oregon, right?
Yeah.
And those are the teams that everyone's picking to, have this monumental game October 12th, and then, probably meet in the Big Ten championship game. And there's even talk, do they meet a third time in the College World Playoff? I think it'd have to be in the semifinal. I'm not the whole 12-team thing is still new to me.
Yeah, it's gonna be
but yeah, I mean, I think if you look beyond those two, I'm interested to see what a second season at Wisconsin with Luke Fickell looks like. He got Cincinnati rolling, and then he's a guy who played Ohio State, was an assistant at Ohio State, had essentially an interim year between Jim Tressel and Urban Meyer. He was the head coach, but it was pretty well known that was going to be just for a season or so. And I always liked him, and he's a defensive guy, but he has very much adopted the spread offense in terms of the coordinators he's hired, and that's what he did at Cincinnati. And Wisconsin has been power run and those type of things for as long as anyone can remember. So year one, I think it was a big transition. And now in year two, you've got some more of your guys personnel-wise to play that way. What does that look like? Like they played good defense last year. Ohio State went up there. We were at the game, and it was it was a hard-fought game. I mean, the Badgers were never really, especially second half, couldn't really hang with the Buckeyes. But I think there is something there. So, could that be a team that maybe surprises some people? What does Iowa look like with a new offensive coordinator? That defense has been so good the past few years with Kirk Ferentz. Now you've got an offensive coordinator who they think will be more innovative. So if you can get the offense going to mix with that defense, a team that's been in the Big Ten championship game 2 of the last 3 years. Now that was with divisions, and obviously this will be a little different. So I'm very interested in those two teams and kind of how they build. I know there was some buzz about Rutgers, but they just had an injury to one of their best defensive players.
Yeah.
And then I think USC, I don't know if they're ready to be in the hunt at the top of the Big Ten, but they've obviously been in the mix kind of late in the year in the Big 12 championship game a couple of years ago. And like I mentioned, Lincoln Riley, once he gets it going, I think he has the ability to kind of roll with it. The way he kind of sells that program, listening to him at Big Ten Media Days. So, that I'll keep an eye on what they do. And then a really oddball one is Indiana. And I only say that because a couple of years ago, I think it was the COVID season, they had their best season in years. And that seems like forever ago, but really isn't. Now you have a new head coach who at Big Ten Media Days really impressed me with the way he just stepped on stage and, kind of took the room over. And I don't know, it certainly wouldn't be this year, but maybe down the line a little bit, can that be a program that starts to climb back up and at least be, a top half Big Ten team? under a coach it's going to be brash and going to look to do some different things. So we could probably go through each team and I could come up with a reason why they might have a good season or a good future, but those are just some that come to mind first.
No, that's fine. And I just had a couple more for you, and that is, looking at UCLA's schedule, they, theoretically, and I'm terribly worried about that Indiana game because I have no idea what to expect from Cignetti and those guys, but on paper, the Bruins should end up 2-3 after 5 games because they got Hawaii, Indiana, and then they have this death march of LSU, Oregon, Penn State. After that, their next 3 games are Minnesota, Rutgers, Nebraska. Minnesota at Rutgers, at Nebraska. We talked about the Rutgers injury and all that stuff. Of Minnesota, Rutgers, and Nebraska, like which one of those games do you think are the most gettable for the Bruins if, as someone who's been in the Big Ten for a while? Forever.
Yeah, I mean, probably Minnesota just at home. We'll see what Rutgers is. It's hard for me to talk about Rutgers in a positive light because they've been so bad. But Greg Schiano, who I did really respect as the defensive coordinator at Ohio State, does seem to have that program moving in a decent direction. We'll see what Nebraska is. Dylan Raiola, the quarterback, was a commit to Ohio State, and we saw him at multiple camps. He's very talented. I mean, I don't like to compare anyone to Patrick Mahomes because he's so unique, but Raiola certainly has like some of that, kind of improvising, not behind the back throws like Mahomes did, I think last weekend, but
sweet.
Just some of those, things you don't see a lot of guys do. And, I know Ohio State, when he decommitted and then committed to Georgia and ends up at Nebraska, it was very disappointed that he was not going to be in that class. So it's going to be year one. I'm sure he's going to have some freshman mistakes, but he certainly seems, from everything I've read from our guys out there, seems to be settling in well. So I think that Minnesota game at home, having Minnesota travel out there will be interesting. That's coming off of you guys going to Penn State. So, it will either be a game where you need to bounce back in a big way, or you're really celebrating that upset win against the Nittany Lions, which Buckeye fans would be happy to see, I think.
Yeah, that would freak everybody out. I'm pretty sure. Absolutely. The last one for you, and that is, thinking about, UCLA's also got at LSU on the schedule, and they actually took a couple games against the SEC off the schedule in the upcoming years coming into the Big Ten. It's kind of like my opinion now that as far as how the Big Ten teams going forward treat their non-cons, I'm perfectly happy with the Buckeyes playing Colorado or playing an ACC team or playing a Big 12 team. But I don't think there's any reason at all for a Big Ten team to ever play an SEC team in the non-con schedule going forward, given the way the playoffs structured now. How do you feel about that? Those big time matchups that could be early in the season, but that also probably are going to end up being there at the end for the playoff. Do you have any opinion on that?
Yeah, so I think from a competitive perspective, I agree with you entirely, because Ohio State this year is kind of doing what Michigan did last year in terms of not playing anyone in the non-conference schedule. Now, some of that had to do with they canceled a home and home with Washington because, well, they claimed at the time that it didn't have anything to do with Washington potentially joining the Big Ten, but then Washington joined the Big Ten and it all made sense. So that's the reason they don't have a marquee non-conference opponent this year. But it's also part of the reason people think the Buckeyes can, kind of coast the first few games of the season and get off to a pretty good start. So I completely agree on that side. Now, from a fan of college football, I think if you're going through the early portions of the season and it's just blowout after blowout on every game you flip to, no matter the time slot, I think that would be disappointing just from a, watching the game perspective. I was actually thinking about this the other night. I was watching the Netflix documentary on the Urban Meyer Florida teams, and it reminded me just how, some of those teams and other conferences have started to do it too, but the SEC, I think, did it early, was, playing those conference games earlier in the season, even opening with some conference games. And that could be a way that you offset some of that so that, there are some really good games each week, even if you're not going to play those major non-conference games, and then you do get those finally at the end of the season. But I also think too, it depends who you are. No doubt. If you're going to claim to be Ohio State or Michigan or text it, name the team that is consistently in the conversation for the college football playoff. Should you admit that you don't want to play those teams because you don't want to take a loss? Like, I don't know. I think maybe you continue to play them every once in a while, maybe not as frequently as you do, or as you did, excuse me. So I don't know what the right answer is, because I think you kind of have to measure both sides of things. But I certainly think from a competitive experience, you should not put yourself in jeopardy by maybe taking a loss that at the end of the season affects you when you're going to have to play a gauntlet in conference play these days.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I'm kind of torn. I'm trying to get into this Big Ten, stand up the Big Ten thing, though, and that's kind of thought had occurred to me. But
sure.
His name is Patrick Murphy. He's @_Pat_Murphy on 24/7 Bucknuts 24/7 and 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports, and he's been overly generous with his time with us tonight. And thank you very much, Patrick, for coming on the show.
For sure. Thanks for having me, guys. I look forward to more of these.
Absolutely. And UCLA hasn't played the Buckeyes since like 2001, but I guess that we're going to end that streak soon. So until then, go Buckeyes and have a good season covering your team.
Take care, Patrick.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Mikey, that was a great interview. Thank you for booking that guest. That was really cool.
A lot of good information. And it's so weird having to talk to someone from Ohio State. And we're, as you said, hey, let's meet up again. Let's do this in the coming years. And Ohio State. Never would have thought this. When we started this show almost 11 years ago, Jake. Just still blows my mind.
Yeah.
Jake.
It's weird talking to a team that has fans and fans that have expectations
and
the ability to back up those expectations.
Exactly.
Something on the line. Because Ohio State has a lot on the line this year.
Did you know?
Their coach might get fired for going to the playoff if the wrong things happen.
Yeah, exactly.
They lose to Michigan again, he is in dangerous water. Right?
Well, then they get to promote Chip Kelly, so there's that.
Oh, good Lord.
Jake, the circumference...
Can you imagine UCLA playing Ohio State next year? Are they on the schedule next year? I think they are, right? Playing Ohio State next year with Chip Kelly as the interim coach because Ryan Day gets fired in like game 3 next year because they struggle or whatever. Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. Jake, the circumference of the Earth is 24,000 miles. UCLA is traveling 22,000 miles this season. They're almost traveling the
first class though. Who cares? That's my opinion.
That's insane though. I thought that was pretty funny.
No, I think that is pretty funny, Mike. And I think I want to say, did you add up the travel, or was that James Williams that added up the travel? I don't remember who did it.
I started to add up a travel just because I thought of it, and then literally like 2 days later, and my math was off. I don't know how, but it wasn't off by that much.
Mike's
but
degrees in
someone,
liberal arts.
right? Someone who published it. There was. I forgot the outlet, but they put out the travel miles for each Big Ten team, and UCLA was definitely at the top.
A pretty fun stat.
Yeah.
I do kind of fall on the side of what Wayne was saying when he's on the show, in that it's a little bit like, okay, fine. Like they have to travel a couple more hours, a couple more times. The ones that get me are the ones where they go, like if they have an East Coast game at 9 a.m, that's the one that I'm like, oh, that's going to have a severe effect on them, as opposed to just purely the travel part, right?
Yeah.
But like we don't have a time for at Rutgers. We don't have a time for, is Nebraska Central or is it
Central, I believe? Yeah.
Okay, so Nebraska's not as bad. It's like kind of going to Colorado or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's really just that Nebraska and the Penn State game, right? If all of a sudden those games, or I guess theoretically it's not going to be, but the LSU game, right?
Yeah.
If you're telling me they're going to Death Valley and they're starting at 9 a.m., or they're going to Penn State and they're starting at 9 a.m., or they're going to Rutgers and starting at 9 a.m., I'd be like, F. Like that's going to suck.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're playing like a relatively normal time, I think the travel isn't that big of a deal, but it is a very cool stat.
You want to hear an insane travel story? Okay, so UCLA's first opponent in week 1, Hawaii, is actually playing in week 0 against Delaware State in Honolulu.
Yeah.
Delaware State was supposed to leave from, I think it was JFK in New York, for their 10.5-hour flight to Honolulu.
Yeah, that's wacky.
And they missed it.
Oh.
So that was this morning. That was Tuesday morning. I was like, oh, they got to figure that out. But it's Tuesday when this happened. They have some days to get there, but 10.5 hours for an entire team to fly to
that's pretty
for
brutal.
a football game. That's insane.
Oh.
Anyway, Yeah. So,
all right, Mike. Well, we have some listener feedback.
Let's do it.
Do you have anything else on your plate? I have one other thing I want to get to.
Oh, I never put out a tweet today. I was so busy. Work is.
You put out one tweet. We have a B1G. We have a big guest.
I did, and I didn't follow
Actually,
it
got some
up.
text messages about that.
I didn't follow
I said,
it up.
who's your guest? I said, I'm not telling you yet.
It's big.
It's some guy from the.
Tell you.
It's some guy from a good team that we don't play. It's okay.
Yeah, right.
It's a fun interview. It was good. It was
Some
great.
insight. Some insight.
It's great. It was great.
So,
anywho,
calm down.
I
Be patient,
do
listen.
want to, in preparation for the season coming up, I want to get some of our drops straight. Mr. Benton emailed in about some of the other Big Ten teams drops that we're looking for. But, like next week when the guys are here, I'm sure we're going to talk about who our Magic Men are.
Hell
a Magic
yeah.
Man.
In addition to our Big Ten picks. And, over the years, a lot of our Magic Men have actually had drops connected to them. Of course, and some of our more infamous Bruin players have had drops connected to them.
Hey, Mickey!
Where are you? Over here.
This is why I love 5-star Bruin prospects, right? More. How do you like it? But anywho, just real quick, I want to go over some of the drops that we have already and get some of our friends out there thinking about other drops that we may need for this season, given what players we think are going to be big contributors. Of course, so like last year and kind of the year before, a couple years ago, it was all about DTR. It was all about something like this.
DTR is a good quarterback.
That's when he was playing good, or when he was not playing
DTR
good.
just fumbled it again inside the red zone.
Those are staples of the show for like the 9.5 years that DTR was our quarterback. That was awesome. I love that. Zach Charbonnet, a proud Seattle Seahawk right now, had a number of drops on the show. Zach, that's probably the best one by far.
Yeah.
It'll never die.
Thanks to New Girl.
Yeah, and that was good. Absolutely, Mike thought of that one. It was great. This is another one that I loved with old Zach.
Built like a tank, get hard to hit.
Zach Charbonnet's.
Co-running shit.
I never got sick of Zach Charbonnet, right? I love that guy.
Not at all.
Last year, we got into one of my Magic Men.
The Magic Man.
From last year was none other than Carson Steele. And when I think of Carson Steele, and by the way, he's a proud Kansas City Chief now, doing things in the preseason. But that was Carson Steele last year. Right? So it's like things like that. What are we going to play for these guys as they come through? Oh, we also had this one.
Zach Pop the Charbonnet.
Yeah, we had that one there too. So thinking about this year, we've already got, a running back that transferred in the offseason and then transferred back or came. Did he actually transfer and then come back? Or did he just rescind it?
He committed to,
non-pro tongue it?
He rescinded.
Whatever. Okay.
Yeah, rescinded.
So that's none other than Mr. Jones. And this has been a repurposed drop, but I'll never get sick of it. Or wait, that's not even the one I'm thinking of, right? Where's the other one?
Well, when you look,
that's Keegan Jones' drop.
Well,
right?
when you look like Adam Dirts, as he looks like a dirty hippie, and still really do well with the ladies, I mean, you're doing something right.
There you go. So that's one of our running backs, absolutely. Right, but Shaw, that's gonna be Mr. Jones. Now I think this was a Benton special from last year, but we got Harden.
Yep.
And of course,
glad you clarified that.
We have Harden My Heart by Quarter Flash. I think this one was a Benton special.
So, but basically, we need your help, people.
But I love the fact that we have drops that are that are musical that are just going to sing.
Oh, hell yeah!
Keegan Jones and Harden. Keegan Jones scored a touchdown. Harden just broke a 60-yard run down the sideline. That's wonderful, right? And of course, we have our anonymous quarterback who needs to tell people what his name is, right? It's not, Heath
Gayburs?
Chase Gayburs or Ethan Gayburs.
Heath Gayburs?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's here it is right here.
Chase Gayburs at quarterback.
My name is Ethan. Just call me Eve.
So that's going to be there, right? And I don't want to forget, we also already have Harden and we have Mr. Jones, but we came up with a new one just in the last couple of weeks for our incoming transfer that we hope is going to get some heavy run for the Bruins.
This is a tasty burger.
That's, of course, Jalen Berger, right? We got that. And then we go over to the wide receivers, and we got some good wide receiver drops again this year, too. We need one for J. Mike. I'm trying to figure out what one would be for him. but that's one that's certainly lacking. But we did get a transfer from Notre Dame, and I think that one just kind of writes itself.
Rico.
As far as the other wide receivers go, we don't have one for Titus yet. We don't have one for Maliki Mataveo. We don't have one for J. Mike, as I said. So that is kind of a work in progress. Jay Toya on the defense. I would love one for Ladejo. I'd love one for Mike's main Magic Man, K. Madrano, the 8-foot-tall safety Addison, right? So any drops you have. But there is another one I thought of just this week, Mike. So this is another wide receiver. And you tell me which one of these you like better. They're both from the same movie, Dragnet. Okay.
Oh.
Tell me if you know where I'm going with this.
Pagan.
Huh?
Yes! I mean, that's cool.
Or we have this one.
Pagan perfection.
So like he scores a touchdown?
That one. The second one, yes.
Okay. So, I mean, I know we're taking a little bit of license here. Is it Brandon Pagan? Is it Pegan? Is it, what is it? What are we talking about here, Mike? What's the pronunciation that we're supposed to go with? I don't want to Gayburs him, but I mean, it's almost too
like
good.
Pagan.
Yeah.
Not so much Agan, but Pagan.
Hey, we're just going to go with it.
Yeah, we're just going to go.
And, if this is a Michael Penix situation, Michael Penix, tomato, I guess we'll just have to live with it.
Dear Lord. Oh, man.
I'm happy that UCLA won.
All right, Mike, let's get to some listener feedback. We got some calls this week,
Let's do it.
And hopefully the calls start pouring in with the upcoming football season. But let's see what we got. First up, it's our good friend Leo, who listens to us while he's on his treadmill or on his exercise bike. I don't remember which one, but hey, Leo, what do you have to say?
Hey, guys, this is Leo from Long Beach giving a call. I had a question for all of you guys. Just wondering if you remembered your first UCLA football game. I'll share mine. I got tickets for UCLA Ohio State in 2001. It was a Bruin win. It was really, really exciting and became a fan ever since. Anyways, just a quick question for you guys. If you remember your favorite game and then maybe your first game, a Bruin game. All right, guys, let's have a great season. Bye.
Leo, that's a great question. However, I do want you to, right now, pick up your phone. I don't care if you're running or not. Pick up your phone. Put a reminder in for like June 17th of 2025 to call in with that topic again, because that is great off-season. That's a great off-season question.
I would be, yeah.
I'd love to just revisit that once again, because we'll all forget what we said this time next year. So that's the kind of stuff we need to keep the hotline alive in June as well. But great question, and I will answer you right now, Leo. Number one, Mike, do you have an answer for it? Because I know what mine are.
Yeah, just really quick, and mine is really simple because I think I was like maybe 7 or 8 years old. I just remember my dad was saying, hey, we're going to go to a UCLA game, and it just blew my mind.
It's wonderful.
Growing up poor, you don't get to do that a lot. So you go to the Rose Bowl, and I honestly have no idea who UCLA played. I just remember that I went to go see this team that I only see on TV at this grandiose structure sitting in Pasadena, and I just remember just having a ball. I believe UCLA won, but I was just so I was so in awe of the whole situation. But my favorite has to be the Anthony Barr sack on.
That's a good one.
I forget who did he sack. Doesn't matter. He sacked a Trojan, and
Matt Barkley.
Barkley.
The deboning
I remember
of Matt Barkley. I know that's a tasteless comment, but he did get deboned.
Oh God, that was
play.
a massive hit. Yeah. And I remember sitting in the south side. This is way before
legal hit.
I even thought of maybe trying to write about football. But yeah, that was great because it was also raining. The fact that UCLA just got some revenge on USC, and Anthony Barr just showed how much of a stud he was. That there was just so much fervor there and excitement, and that's my favorite. Being there as a fan per se. Jake, what about you?
My first game was at the Rose Bowl in '95, I believe, and it was when I was transferring there from Riverside Community College, and my boss at the time at Castle Amusement Park, his name was Don Cudlip. He had somehow got these tickets and gave them to me and my friend Colby, now from One Hundred Lone Mark, Colby, and we went and sat on the 50-yard line in the row just below the press box. So at the very top of the stadium, but on the 50-yard line.
Oh,
great
you got
seats.
shade.
Yeah, shade, great seats. And I feel like we played like Arizona or something. It was a Bruin win. I think Skip Hicks was on the team because I remember Skip Hicks was definitely on the team. And he ran well in the game. And I think the Bruins won the game. But I don't remember too much else about it. It might have been the Miami game for all I know. I'm looking back at their schedule right now. But anywho, Skip Hicks had a big game. It was my first time at the Rose Bowl. I thought it was awesome, and it was like before I became a student, but after I was accepted to UCLA. So it was a very exciting, fun game, and I still want to thank Don for those wonderful tickets. My favorite UCLA game, however, was not at the Rose Bowl. It is, as I've said in the past, up at Washington, out there on the Sound, and it was Maurice Jones-Drew, 330-yard, 5-6 touchdown performance against the Huskies, and it was just one of the coolest games I've ever watched. And I actually had very similar seats. I scalped a single seat about at the 50, way up high in that stadium. The perfect view for the perfect football game. It was a back and forth game, and Maurice broke off like 3 or 4 runs that were like 50 yards plus, I want to say, or at least like 30, 40 yards plus. And it was just my favorite player playing at his absolute peak for my favorite team, and that'll always probably be my favorite Bruin game. I can't imagine something topping it, even though it was a game with no stakes.
I have a sidebar to that really quickly. That was the exact same day as one of those K-Rock Inland Invasion shows at the Glen Helen, right there off the 15.
Right.
I took a small radio because UCLA was playing at Washington, and I remember sitting on the hill, and I think I was looking at like Stone Roses or something, and this guy's just drunk or whatever. So I'm not carrying. No, he was drunk. Oh. He was probably stoned too, but yeah. And I'm like, okay, this is a good band. Can we get to Susie and the Banshees, blah, blah, blah. But until then, Maurice Jones-Drew with the 3rd touchdown. I was like, the only one cheering. People were like, what the hell are you doing,
That's
buddy?
awesome. Because you were actually a student for that game.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, actually, no. Yeah. You were a student and I was graduated probably.
Yeah.
Because that game was like 2000. I don't know when that game was. Whatever. It was like 2002.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Very cool. That was a great game. I love that game. But anyways, thank you, Leo. Wonderful question. Ask it again in June. All right, here's the next call.
You're going to take that from him, Leo?
No, we love Leo. Like Leo's...
Sounds like you're sassing him, Jake.
No, I did not mean that to be sassy.
I know.
But Leo's coming through in the clutch.
Hells yeah, dude.
Do it, Leo. All right, here's Crispy Bruin.
A lot of you can sorry, Crispy.
We'll start it over.
I was going to say, Jake, a lot of you listeners can learn from Leo. I'm just saying. Anyway, here's Crispy.
He's awesome.
Hey, guys, it's the Crispy Bruin. I was just driving home listening to your podcast from this week. You guys started talking about Ale Cajo. I had this thought recently that we seem to have a really old team for being a first-year head coach. I'm very grateful for that. But I was thinking about Ale Cajo and how long he's been a Bruin and how long he's been playing college football. So I went to go look it up. Guys, this dude's been playing NCAA football, first at Alabama, now for us, since 2018. For reference, guys, I just had my 1-year anniversary working my job. I was a high schooler taking the PSAT in 2018. Like, these dudes are experienced to hell. So, again, I'm very optimistic with how we're going to do in the new Big Ten. I think we got the guys. I think they've been around. I think these guys can speed. All right. Take care, guys.
It's funny. We're in the era of the super-duper super seniors. I made a joke about DTR a little while ago, but Crispy's absolutely right? And it's so crazy when you look at the upperclassmen ratio for UCLA, given how we've spent, weeks talking about how anonymous they are.
Yeah.
But if things do cut right for the Bruins, this is a big part of it. It's like, I know they lost a lot of dudes from last year that were very good on the defense or whatever, but they have a lot of upperclassmen, and generally that, if they can be galvanized by these coaches, that can be a pretty, pretty good combination, generally speaking. So that's a good call as well, Crispy. Thank you so much. Hey, guess what? Guess who else called again?
Oh,
it's our guy Leo.
Yes,
he really wants to run hard this morning.
Hey guys, it's Leo again. So Mike last week said that I should call twice.
Good job, Leo.
Started a week ago, so it's been crazy. So I'm making it up by calling today. All right, I'll make it quick. So I talked to the AD at the Big Ten event, and I asked is there a possibility for UCLA to have like a football game, like at neutral site, and he pretty much said no. I guess I see the benefit of having as many home games as possible, and like USC is playing LSU in Vegas, you're technically both schools are sacrificing a home game to play at a neutral site. But yeah, it was fun to go to Jerry's World out in Dallas and with the Jamaal era and have UCLA beat up on Texas. All right, guys, that's it. Bye.
That was a hell of a game to be at. Me and Bill were there as well, and we got to see old Jerry and that hair. Jerry, I have a drop somewhere for that one, but you know, Mikey, what do you think about that neutral site versus non-neutral sites or whatever?
Right now, just because UCLA needs to get used to the Big Ten travel schedule, if they're going to be neutral sites, make it neutral. I don't know, in like San Francisco or Vegas or Phoenix or something like that. Don't go too far.
Yeah, and I kind of don't want to give up the home game.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I also I'm really looking forward to this game in Death Valley that I'm about to go to.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I kind of like going to the towns where they're at.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think I'd rather not have the neutral site game too. I think. I don't know.
Also, quick sidebar.
But if it's in Vegas, I guess maybe.
Did you hear the questions that I asked Deshaun Foster at the end of Saturday's practice?
You told me to look, and I absolutely forgot.
You son of a bitch.
Tell me, Mike. Real quick. Here's a reminder for good old Leo.
First down and 10 at the Texas 33. Jerry Neuheiser, pump fake, goes up top. Touchdown! Jordan Payton. They've been waiting for that all game.
Let's go. That was good. Good
that was
times.
awesome.
Me and
That
Bill
was
were
awesome.
in the end zone as that play hits. I'm sorry, Mike. What'd you say?
So I asked him two questions. The first was about any chance of alternative uniforms or UCLA going back to actual proper gold pants. I asked him to his face, gold pants, Claridon numbers. He goes, you know what? I did say, hey, I know you have a lot of stuff to think about before this. I also asked him about the in-game experience. He says, we still have 3 weeks until the home game, so there's time for that. But he also said that a lot of his former teammates have been blowing up his phone, and he goes like, you know what, everybody, we'll figure it out when the time is right.
That's
so
funny.
I planted the seed of the gold pants, Jake. This guy right here and the Claridon. You're welcome, America.
What do you think about that blue helmet thing?
Yeah, gross. No, gross. That was. It's on Twitter. Just search for it.
I love
not
that
a fan.
I love it.
Secondly,
not as a standard helmet though. God no. We have the perfect helmet.
Oh God, yeah, we do.
But as a mix-up one, I thought that helmet was pretty slick.
If the uniform is done well, maybe.
I think I saw a helmet or a uniform that went with that helmet, the whole design, and I was like, that's pretty sick. But anyways, I don't want to derail you.
Which again, I can't say because of it, because I was actually last night thinking about all the alternative uniforms that Jim Mora had, and a lot of people hate them, but I loved all of them except the surrender whites. No, that was new.
Abomination.
But still. The second question I asked Deshaun Foster was, does he think that maybe the Big Ten media, the national media, are writing UCLA off? Do I think that UCLA is flying under the radar? And just to summarize, he had actually a really good response. He basically said he's keeping receipts. So
that's nice. I mean, hopefully he can cash those in. That would be good.
I'm just saying, could be drops for the What's Bruin show.
I would have liked to have asked our guest this, and that is, what record would UCLA have to have in order to cash in some receipts, right?
Yeah.
Because some guys is like, oh, they win 4 or 5 games, like that's exceeding what they expected from them. But I still don't think that's anything to be like excited about. But I think for us, they get to a bowl game, and that's gonna be a big middle finger to a lot of people that were thinking about the Bruins in a different way. But once again, I just think it's more of a case of people aren't thinking of the Bruins at all, so they're like defaulting them to 2, 3, 4 wins.
They're ghosts.
That's right. They're invisible. All right, we have one more call. Let's get to that call because Mike, it's getting late.
At What's Bruin Show.
Hi, Carrie.
I enjoyed your show last week. Hope things are going well for you all. And I'm not sure if I'm getting this in time for the next show, but just want to say hello and let you know I'm listening. And it's been, the Olympics were fun. I feel really bad for Jordan Childs, the gymnast from UCLA. who got her bronze taken away. Apparently, Flava Flav made her a bronze clock.
Yeah, boy.
Which actually looked pretty cool. I hope she likes it too. But that was kind of sad. But happy for all the Bruins that won medals, and again excited for football. Everything's so uncertain about that. Sounds like their greatest strength is staying healthy if they can do it. And I think if they stay healthy, they could win at least 6 games. So I'm crossing my fingers. And Jake, cover your ears. I am very excited about basketball. That team looked great, and the Rico run clip was really inspiring. So that is pretty much all I have right now, and I look forward to hearing you later. Go Bruins!
Thank you, Carrie. And yeah, I'm also excited about UCLA basketball.
Yeah, right.
In 2 months.
Sure.
I'm very excited about it in 2 months. Mike, what did you think about the Rico run thing? We didn't even talk about that.
First off, I sent a tweet to him saying, "Hey Rico, would you like to do an interview for my podcast?"
Shameless, Mike.
With your former roommates.
Yeah, explain that story, pal.
Okay. Freshman year, the summer before my freshman year, 1996, I was in the dorms, Sproul Hall. Who was my roommate? A one Rico Hines.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Met some of the basketball team because of it. One of my favorite memories of him is that, we got along pretty well. He was busy with basketball. I was busy with trying to learn how college freaking works. One weekend I came back with some of my mom's tamales and her salsa. He was interested in it because I'm forgetting. I think he's from South Carolina, I believe it was. So I was like, hey, any interest in trying Mexican food with tamales? And he has his spice, Southern spice.
Yeah.
But when he tried my mom's salsa, which is notoriously, it's made. My mom's salsa has made grown men cry.
Sure.
And it did in this instance.
That's nice.
So
very cool.
He loved it, but he was like, "Damn, tell your mom this is hot."
That's awesome.
I was like, "Mom, guess what? Guess what Rico said." A great memory. But yeah, no, those Rico runs were pretty impressive, and the fact that he's been able to kind of like take over them and kind of make it a thing, because that's always been a thing. Like the games in the men's gym, that's just been a staple at UCLA. And so for him to properly organize it and also get the UCLA, the current men's basketball team involved with it, as well as have freaking stars, NBA stars, that's it's incredible. I like what's going on with that.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, and like I said, I'm very excited for it in a few months. Very excited. I couldn't be more excited about it in like December.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Anywho,
November, Jake.
We do have one more. No.
Basketball starts in November.
Yeah, it might start November. I'll be excited about it in December.
All right.
You know, right where the kind of the season ends. You know, that time in between when they go to a bowl game or not. God willing, he stays in a bowl game, like Carrie said. I'll be super excited in December. That's gonna be awesome. Be off the chain.
That Novembers are always hell. That basketball football crossover.
Don't you dare make me think about. Guy, by the way, because I'm.
Well, you don't have to.
The Lakers are there too. Be like Lakers, Bruin football, Lakers. Oh yeah, UCLA basketball's playing. Oh geez. Anyways,
I mean, the Godfather Jim Bendette. I'm sure he's going to be looking at the Clippers. AKA the Intuit bitches.
Yeah. Those abominations. Anyways, I'm sorry. We have one more call, Mike.
Okay,
and it's Dez. God, we love Dez, and God, we love Carrie, and God, we love Leo. God, we love Crispy.
We love y'all.
You guys are awesome. Anyways, what did Dez have to say?
I was watching Mike's. Oh, this is Des from Santa Clarita. I was watching Mike's Twitter 2-minute, UCLA 2-minute, or I forget what it's called. My bad, Mike. I'll do better next time. But he was talking about watching Ethan at in the bowl game, and I thought it would be even better to watch him against USC, because that was like really his best game the entire season. And then I realized one important thing. We whooped USC's ass for the last time as Pac-12 members, and then we're going to whoop their ass again.
Go Bruins.
As first-time Big Ten members. This season is looking great already. I know I'm full of optimism and happy, pills in my system, but all I got to say is go Bruins. Love the show. Have a good night, guys.
I love when Dez calls us right after the XC hits on him, and he's like, "Yeah, let's go, Bruin Cloud, get a pacifier."
Macro dosing, love it. No, I'm just kidding, Des. But yeah,
we love Des so much.
Yeah, no, I love doing those tournament drills. But no, I actually after that I went back and checked out the Colorado game, which was another game. So for those of you who need a little bit of a Bruin football fix, before the game against Hawaii, go to YouTube, check out the LA Bowl, the game against Colorado, the game against.
And who was playing well in that game?
Gayburs.
Chase Gayburs at quarterback.
My name is
Ethan.
Just call me Eve.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, so check those out on the YouTubes.
Wonderful. All right, Mike, we have like 30 seconds for our What's Bruin with you because this show is getting out of control. And I have to edit it, and then I have to sleep because I am tired and I'm wanting not to get a cold.
Okay,
but
that's cool.
Let's do that.
Oh, I'll make it quick.
What's brewing with you? Yeah, ask me. What's brewing with me? Yeah. What's brewing with you? What's brewing with me? What's brewing with you?
Mike, you got anything you want me to start?
Well, this weekend was KQBH, the radio station I work for. It was their 7th anniversary, and I not only got to party with some of my fellow DJs, but I did a 25-minute set and really blew the roof off the place. It was I just played. I think people were blown away by the fact that I would play.
Like that?
Exactly. I would play Daft Punk, followed by like a ska song, followed by 9 Inch Nails, and then I finished off with, and I think I played this for you, Jake. I have this one record called Jawa Breaks, and I love that. And I bought at Amoeba years ago. I have no idea what I was purchasing. Took it home, and it's basically all the songs, all the John Williams songs from episode 4, with a beat put to it.
It was really cool.
And I brought the house down with the Cantina.
It's even better
song,
than like the disco Star Wars,
which I have too.
I know you do.
I have that. Yes, love
this
it.
Is better than that.
That's pretty solid too. But yes, it is better than that. Jake, what's wrong with you?
Thank you, Mike. Just briefly, I'm supposed to run in a little mini triathlon with old Bill on Saturday.
Oh,
and the water is going to be cold, 60 degrees or
swimming?
Colder in Santa Barbara. So we'll see how that goes.
Nice.
Bill's going to puss out and wear a wetsuit. I am not. I'm just going to be a man and swim it. But
after 30 seconds, you're heated up.
I mean, come on, dude. Whatever. It's not that far. So anyways, I'm looking forward to doing that. Although if I'm getting a cold, I'm going to be pretty pissed if that's going to put a cramp in my style. Also, my son, Malcolm, is going to play his first JV football game.
Hells yeah.
On Thursday. Your daughter, I think we already said this on the show. I don't remember. We'll reset that.
We opened it. Yeah.
She's going to be cheering for her first football game, too.
Hells yeah.
So let's go. Team What's Bruin kids.
Team Frosh.
Yeah, the next generation.
Frosh Bruins.
What's Bruin, the next generation. So we're excited about that. And that's where that's it. So cross your fingers for me that I'm not getting a cold. I like it, Mike. It's good. Cross your fingers I'm not getting a cold. And we'll be coming back next week with a game preview for the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. The
Yes,
Rainbow's
sir.
back.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. And then we'll have football.
Hells yes.
So, Mike, it's
Preach.
been great job booking the guest, and listen to that, and send us call the hotline 805-394-WS, Second Raina Troy. I may have an episode with Raina Troy on the subscriber feed after tomorrow. We'll see if how I feel, but otherwise we'll be doing that in the future too. And next week will be our Big Ten prediction show with Bill, with Jamaal, with the Godfather. So we're looking forward to that. And until next time, Mikey, what do we say?
Go Bruins.
Good evening.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
That was the What's Bruin Show.
Try us tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel.
It's gotta be in or out, Mom. In or out. Well, I need the door closed.
Thank you for your cooperation.
Dude, brah, we play some ball on the West Coast.
The final word is boob.